All right, so in this tutorial, we are going to cover how to use this Lunametric engagement timer recipe, Google Tag Manager, to track how long people are on your website, your sales pages, whatever, and then be able to build off the data layer events that are sent, how to send a retargeting pixel to have a really qualified audience. So if you've read Justin Brooke's stuff for any amount of time, a long time ago, he came up with this idea to only let your retargeting pixel fire after 30 seconds. It's a great idea. The only catch with it is that when someone comes and opens up a new tab, let's say they go to your site, the counter starts, but it's not necessarily an engaged 30 seconds because you can see I have 5 tabs open here. Normally I have hundreds of tabs open. I want to make sure that we're only counting people who are truly engaged in going through our site. And that's what this awesome Lunametrics recipe does. So if you're not familiar with Lunametrics, they're a company that specializes in Google Analytics, Tag Manager. I'm a huge fan of them because they put out resources that people can use for free. I think they did just an amazing job. So I highly recommend come check out this lab recipe library. We'll put the link down below, but they've just created some great resources. And so come check out all of these. But the big one for me that we're going to go through right now is the engagement timer recipe. And so what this is, if you've never used a container file with Tag Manager, basically it is all of the tags, triggers, and variables packaged into one that you can just upload and start to use. So it takes a lot of the work out of it. And why this recipe is so great is because it's going to send an event to your Google Analytics every 30 seconds for up to 30 minutes, but it's going to pause that counter when the tab is not active in the browser or when the user hasn't moved the mouse or pressed a key in the last minute. That's what's super important is they have to be engaged in order for you for that counter to count. So what I really love about this is I like to see if people that we're sending traffic from, are they spending 2-3 minutes on the site? Are we actually getting engaged users? And usually after 90, 120, 150 seconds, that's when we deploy our retargeting pixel because it means they're very engaged. So we know that we're talking to very, very interested people. So the way you do this is you click on the download container button. I've already downloaded it. I'm going to come back to my tag manager. I'm going to click on admin and I'm going to upload this container. So import container, choose container file. I'm going to choose the engagement timer. I'm going to use it in an existing workspace, the default. And then you do not want to, if I overwrote, I'd get rid of all the other tags I've got in there. So I want to merge this with my existing tags. It doesn't look like I'm going to have to modify or delete anything. So overwrite or rename doesn't matter. Make sure you just check if there's something that's already in there, I would rename it instead of overwriting it. So no big deal there for me. For the detailed changes, you can see these are the tags that are going to be added, the trigger, and the variables. So I'm going to click confirm, and all of those will automatically be pulled in. So before we can get started, I want to show you two things. With the tags, there is this GA event engaged time. This is the tag that we just added. And so what I like to do with these is I like to put my initials in here so people know it was me that added it. And I call this a UA event because we're talking about universal analytics. So what we're setting here is an event. The category is going to be engagement timer. The action is going to be 30, 60, 90, 120 seconds of engagement. We're going to also send the page URL so we can see which page they were on when this timer was going. From the value perspective, you can keep track of the value, so basically 30, 60, 90, etc. I don't like having this in there. The value to me is when we're tracking purchases, so I get rid of this. Which is not going to affect bounce rate. If you do want it to affect bounce rate, you can change this to false. But I leave it as true. And the biggest thing in here is they want you to come and insert your GA property ID. So I'm going to actually click the enable, and I'm going to use our AdSkills example to make sure that this fires and goes to our Google Analytics account. So I'm going to click save, and then I'm going to go through and preview this so you can see what this looks like. So when I head to my website, as you can see here, I've got this all squared up. And you can see the CU engagement timer Lunametrics plugin. So this is the script that's running on the site. It's a bunch of code that I don't understand because I'm not a coder. So I don't pay a lot of attention to it. All I want to see is this thing fire, the engagement timer, and I want to see what it says. So it's the engagement timer, 30 seconds. This is what I care about. And if we look in the data layer, the event is engagement timer and the attribute, the counter equals 30. So that's what we're paying attention to. So if we go into our Google Analytics account, we look at events, we should see this timer should be working. And oftentimes with the timer, it doesn't show up in the active. You have to look in the last 30 minutes. So just to make sure I had this script running correctly with you, I went through and did this a couple times. So engagement timer 30, and then as we continue to roll through this, when this is my active window, this should be, it'll pop again. So this should be 60 seconds. And so we're at 60, right? That's what we care about. This is what's important, is making sure that we're sending at the right intervals. So once again, if I continue to stay on here, we would be able to fire off a 90, so on and so forth. Okay, so now that we know our engagement timer is working, it's time to come put in our retargeting pixel. So you're gonna come back to tags, you're gonna click new, and I'm gonna call this engaged visitor AdWords retargeting. I'm not actually gonna put in a retargeting. I'm just gonna show you. I'm gonna make something up. So we don't want it to be conversion tracking. We want it to be remarketing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Triggering. So we don't have an event yet that we're firing off. Let's go create that. So you come in. You're gonna create a new trigger, and I'm gonna call this engaged user 30 seconds. So you're going to click on this. This is going to be a custom event, and the event name is engaged timer. And we know that because if we're on here, this is the event name right here. So you're just going to copy that, come back into Tag Manager, engaged timer. You could do it on all of them, but we want it to be some events. So we want the engagement timer counter contains 30. And we know that because if we look in here, in the data layer, counter should be 30 when we are seeing what we care about. So we are going to, now we've got that, click save. So we are going to fire, and I'm going to call this fake. And so that way when we go through and we reload this, we should see fake popped up. So we are going to refresh this. Come back to our website, refresh this, start a new session. And now when we see our first engagement timer, we should also see that fake retargeting pixel pop up. Once again, if I were in your shoes, I would probably make that duration more like 60, 90, 120 to be really engaged. But you can do whatever you would like. So once we see this first engagement timer pop off, we should see fake pop up. It looks like it'll be right here. Boom. Engaged visitor, AdWords retargeting, off to the races. So now you know how to use your data layer events, so your custom event, to trigger a tag to fire on your site. So hopefully you go through and figure that out. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments below or hit us up in the Pro League Slack channel. I'm more than happy to help you out. If you'd like to learn more about how to use paid traffic and analytics to scale your business, subscribe to the AdSkills channel so you'll be notified every time new content is released. If you'd like to learn more about the topic we just discussed, check out the related video we're posting right now.